them within about a 2-week period, but if you don't, it could be 6 weeks, okay? So, and it
Keep
just,
that in mind when you're doing a closing date.
Another question is, what if they still keep the house but they're renting it out?
I don't think anybody's paying attention to that.
Okay,
nobody's
I wouldn't
gonna
think so,
monitor it.
so that might help with maybe another situation, I don't know. Something
Is
that
there
we
an
can think
interest
about.
rate that goes along with that particularly?
It's whatever FHA, VA, USDA, they don't get into any of that. All they wanna do, all they're looking at, they bet on us to do the income or doing the qualifying. They just wanna make sure their income limits are
And
having.
that's all they do. They look at the
They don't look at
application, look at their
anything else.
income, and just make sure that, basically what we're doing is we're reserving that money.
Mhm.
So, so it's reserved, so even if it's closing 90 days out, that money's reserved for that particular person
right.
and that particular property. Okay?
So-
That's all
And they
they
can
look at.
apply that towards closing or?
That's right.
Yep.
And I have a question for you, as far as FHA goes, what is the highest percentage that you've seen with someone's bad credit? Like, let's say someone has a 601 credit score, what's the highest interest rate? That's what I meant to say.
We are, 620s are where our game starts. So if you don't have somebody there, now, here's what Leonard and I've been doing.
Oh, with this, it has to be a 620?
With us.
And,
With
oh,
us.
really?
With us.
Okay.
Which most, but you may find somebody out there that may get down.
But let me tell you, it's gonna be like being drug over a barbed wire fence.
Good luck.
Cause I heard that people were doing as low as 580.
Oh, yeah,
You
there's
can-
always
but
folks
you-
out there.
But their
There's always
interest rate's
some-
gonna be
yeah.
high.
That or the origination fee is a lot.
Well, or the rate's terrible. I will tell you, let me give you one of my experiences. I have had, we opened up, FirstBank did this before you came, to an outlet that would allow us to go down to 580. And I had the perfect situation. The gals, somebody left somebody with and it ruined her credit, okay? But she had saved every dime she'd ever made. So she had enough to put 10% down on FHA. But what it took to get there, I mean, it took like 4 months. And it was new construction. And nobody realized how difficult it was gonna be and painful for everybody involved. And so everybody's mad at you at the end, no matter how much you do, how much you work. So the bottom line is we are in a market of things that we can actually do.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, when it's in a certain level, people are not willing to do what it takes. And even if they are,
That's the key.
it's really a
Painful.
challenge.
Mhm.
And you're putting them through a mental stress that,
Cause I told you, we finally went out and got a prepaid for my husband to get him a score.
Mhm.
Well, just this morning I was on, I know, don't, kill me, but it's the only way I can really check quickly, was, Credit Karma. And it said that he finally had a score, which was good, but it was like 601, I think. which
that's
is
okay, that's on the
really low.
way.
It's getting there.
It's getting there, but we won't be able to make it for the deadline for
Right.
this.
Do you know what I was gonna let him
But we
know?
have money in the bank though. That's,
Okay.
it's like we have the money, but no credit,
Right.
or we have whatever.
It is worth it to you and all your customers to get their credit where it needs to be. It's worth the wait.
Like when you say where it needs to be.
Over
That's what I'm
620.
doing.
Over
Is it anything
620.
over 620?
And the reason I say that is now you're in the normal rate range as everybody. You're in the zone that you wanna be in. Anything below that is gonna be, you're gonna pay for it.
So
And sometimes it's
gonna
worth
decrease
it.
what you're gonna be able to get too.
Right, right. But what Leonard and I also
Okay, so the
have,
higher the credit score also allows you
You
to
get a better
more.
interest
Well, just
rate.
because of the interest rate, because your payment,
Okay.
because everybody's payment conscious, what's my payment gonna be, as long as I can afford that payment.
Gotcha.
And FHA is great, I mean, I've seen a 622 and get a, 3.875 interest rate on
That's
FHA.
good.
right,
I mean,
Mhm.
FHA is great.
they don't hit you as hard on credit scores as most loans. But what else is what I am so proud of that we have is this thing called Wayfinder. So you guys send the customer to us, we run it through, and let's say the credit score's underneath what it can be. Well, we go back into the credit report, and it says possible improvement, 25 points. Possible improvement, 0. Possible improvement, whatever. So I had a customer that was just under 618, and we were able to give them instructions from the credit bureau, not just us dreaming up what it might be, but specific things. If they did it right then and did it exactly how it was said, like somebody said, well, why don't I just pay the whole thing off instead of paying it down to what they've told me? I don't know, but if you do it, what they say, it changes it.
Yeah.
If you don't, there's a metric somewhere that calculates out, and it may not be as good.
Like
And how
paying a
long-
credit card off sometimes hurts you more than paying it way down low.
Right.
And
So we-
how long does it usually take, like, once they start doing the steps?
Usually
I'm the same
this
way.
program is, they want you to do it within a 30-day window. That's what that's their measurement. That's what they're saying. If you do this right now, within 30 days. So it's allowed me to close loans I wouldn't have been able to do.
So can you just like call the credit bureau and be like, I have the money to pay this credit card off, what's the best way to not damage your credit?
If you could get anybody on the phone at a credit bureau.
No, that's
be-
why I asked,
you'd
like,
be
how's the
doing
way
good.
to do that?
Well, if you make, the only way we know how to do it is going through us in that
Mhm.
program. As far as outside of that, I don't know if there's just sites you can go to talk about, hey, what's the
Like,
best
what's the
thing?
best one?
I know that,
It's almost a guessing game. You
It
do
is.
this, and then you wait for the score.
And
You
if
do
can
this,
figure it out, good
and you,
luck.
yeah, because there's not a rhyme or
Yeah.
reason, because the numbers all
Well,
fluctuate,
WePath
but.
figures it out, that's what I'm saying, I mean,
Mhm.
it's a spot on, we even have a what if scenario, where it's like your husband, I was like, okay, what if I want a score of 620? I put that in, and it will
And it'll
tell
tell you
me
what to do.
exactly what
it
has
tells
to
you
happen
exact.
That's
to get to
cool.
that score.
Now,
That's
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes there's no information, I mean, sometimes it says 0 possibility. I had a gal that just had it was just gonna be a matter of time, letting time go. But on the newer ends, folks really need to be thinking about having 3 trade lines of something, maybe a gas card, maybe a, store credit card, something that they're pay monthly. That's what they're looking for is, we wanna see this payment history, that, hey, you could take
And you
this
said
out.
that would rent would be towards that?
Only on non-traditional, which is only through USDA.
Oh. Okay.
But everybody else is assuming you're making rental payments on time but you wanna have something that reports.
And keep it under 30%.
That's an excellent
Mhm.
statement.
Yep. That's the magic
I've
number.
learned that the hard
So
way.
meaning, if you've got a $2,000 line of credit, you always only wanna be at 30%
Right.
of that.
I always thought it was
What do you-
10%.
What do you guys think about the, you know how like some banks on like their apps, they have like a FICO score? Is that pretty accurate or is it not?
You mean like if you're looking at your own?
Yeah.
Like
Like-
Citibank will say, hit here for your FICO score.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Those are
Yeah.
that's what a consumer has access to, which I wish it was more transparent through what we do, but it's not. That's something that they base credit cards off of, student loans, car loans, that kind of thing. But mortgage reports are more in depth, and they're required to analyze more information, so it's always.
I asked because you know how some people go off of it and then like if they go with you
Then they
guys
come in and
and they're
it's
like, oh
different.
yeah, it's 700, and then you're like, no, it's not. So that's why I asked like, how
Mhm.
accurate is it?
It can
So you
be
can-
up and it can be low, cause it changes constantly on that consumer piece. So, I mean, it's somewhat of an indication, but just let them know, hey, when you go through with the mortgage company, it's
different,
It's
it's just
just
a different reporting,
yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
I wish it was easier. It's not.
Then you need a 740.
Yeah, of course, yeah, if we have 700, we should still be okay. Hopefully, it's not gonna be that big of a difference, but yeah, if they're running around 630, 640.
Right.
And one thing too, we take the middle school, you know, so we pull, you know, one credit report will have 3 Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax.
Okay,
We take the
average them.
middle school.
And do you guys accept VA benefits as income?
Like,
Monthly VA benefits?
mhm.
You do?
Not talking about GI Bill or anything, just
No,
just VA.
The VA, not
benefits.
GI Bill, VA benefits, like your monthly disability benefit.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
sure.
You do?
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
Dang,
Income is income.
yeah.
everybody told me no. Everybody has said no. Okay.
No, like, you know, when we get, so now the good news is when we pull a VA certificate
Mhm.
of eligibility online, it's gonna be, it'll actually show disability, the amount received by that veteran on there. So we can verify it that way, we don't have to go through and get awards letters and all this other
Yeah.
jazz.
Because that doesn't end at some point, right? That's what you get for the rest of
Yeah,
your life.
once you start getting it, it should
Yeah,
be a
so-
lifetime.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's steady income, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
So
Everybody
security
always said you
benefits?
couldn't,
Other lenders?
yeah, everybody said you couldn't use that as a income.
I don't see why.
We were talking to the
Is
wrong
it
people.
taxable? Like, I
No.
don't know, it's not taxable, but it's considered
Well, I did
income.
have somebody,
Disability's
believe it or
not
not,
usually.
I had somebody on VA disability,
Mhm.
Mhm.
okay, but he was paying taxes on it.
Well, I don't
couldn't
think
believe
he
that.
knew.
Yeah, and I said, you.
He must be
and
doing
sure
his
enough,
own.
he was when I got it. because,
He's
you know,
putting
we
it
could
on the
gross
income
it up.
side and not, he's put it on the
So
wrong
something
line.
I'm thinking,
He didn't know.
He didn't know.
Yeah.
He probably has
So
money
that's
owed
why,
back
that's
to
why I
him.
thought he couldn't use it as income because it's not taxable.
Mm-mm.
Oh, no.
You can use it, we use it all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be the same thing if you're a contractor and you worked overseas, even though it's not taxable income, you can still show proof of employment,
Yep.
so.
Awards letter is the key. Give us an awards letter, or like Missy said, the COE has it on it.
And if
for
you're
VA.
self-employed, Misty, you have to have it 24 months, is that what I'm
2
understanding?
years. So they're gonna wanna see 2 years of tax returns.
Yeah.
Right? Like right now, I've got a little, nail salon guy, and I'm working with, get him to that mark, but, and the reason is, they're just looking for stability, average stability.
Make
Now-
sure that you, like your, I guess your behavior in paying bills.
Right,
and
your
everything.
financial behavior
Well,
is.
and your employment,
What if one year is only showing like $5,000, but the next year is showing like 40?
if we do an FHA loan, they're gonna average those 2 years over 24 months.
Ugh, for real?
For real. Conventional, like,
Even with money in the bank?
yes. FHA
Jeez
never,
Louise.
FHA and VA don't, and USDA, they don't go around that. Where you can catch a break sometimes with really high credit scores, with 20% down, sometimes they'll only wanna see 1-year tax returns.
But you'll have to justify it, and you better have, I mean, it's gonna be a good justification. Because, I mean, like, you know, and that's why they average it, because, you know, you can have one great year, then 5 bad years.
Well, what if
Take
it was
off
just
the
because we
next
just
year.
moved here, that's why it was so low, kind of thing?
Yeah, just have to wait until you've got the time.
I'm right there
Back to
with
that
you,
same
Carl.
stupid situation, just when we finally get a credit score. So now
Well,
we're pretty
by the
much having
time you're ready, though, you're gonna be, I know it's tough now, but when you're ready, you'll have.
frustrating.
It is frustrating.
I'm living in a 1,000 square foot cracker box.
Yeah,
It's driving me nuts already.
But in the same respect, they don't, as lenders, wanna give you false hope. And then, like she said, you get in a situation where you're like, ooh, this came ahead, and you're like, yeah, but we still need 6 months. Yeah, so it does get emotional because you're dealing with the family and people, and so those guidelines are there so they can say, I can get you to closing. I'm not gonna give you empty promises.
Right.
This is what I can do. And so when they look at it and they say, we've got a green light, the last thing you wanna do is hit that, a roller coaster, that emotional high that says, oh, I've got a green light, and then have a roadblock.
right.
And that's what happens when you have little ticky things and they say, well, I have to look at this, but that might be a yellow light, that might turn red,
Right,
or not.
right.
So that's kind of that, and it's totally emotional when you're dealing with clients that have been working hard, gone through a divorce, you know, had a death in the family, or whatever, their life has put them in a situation that their score doesn't match
Right.
necessarily their financial responsibility,
Right.
but that's what you have to go on to ask for
Right.
a lending, you know,
And
so.
listen, bad things happen to good people all the time.
Yeah,
And it's just a matter of getting the timeline right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
How long do you think the interest rates will stay low? I know you can't predict the future.
Man,
but-
if we could, we'd be on an island sipping drinks right now.
I mean, just in just in,
The
what you've seen in the
coronavirus is
past.
helping us right
Mhm.
now.
Is it really?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah,
How's that?
Wow.
because it's driving
cause the
down.
down market's falling because of
you
it.
can't do
Consumer
international
confidence.
trade, yeah, I mean, there's
The
stuff,
better things are going, believe
It
it or
dropped
not,
like 800 points
the
in one
higher
day.
rates.
What?
you know,
The
everything
Dow.
comes in from
Stock
China,
markets.
That's right.
everything, I mean,
Because of
manufacturing,
coronavirus.
they don't
made it
know if they're gonna
plummet.
open up a
Which if that
box
plummets,
that has
usually that keeps the
parts
interest rates
from China.
Yeah, but hasn't Trump stopped a lot of that?
Well, see, here's the thing,
The
whether
international
whether you
trading
like
with
the
China?
man or not,
The China.
Trump is on our side. I mean,
No,
that
he is.
man
I agree.
fights
Yeah, he does.
for
I
interest
totally
rates.
agree.
I mean, he badmouthed the feds the other night on his interview, he was badmouthing the feds.
I heard him.
Yeah, I mean, you know, take him apart, he is a fighter for us.
He
When
might
it
not
comes,
be
when
the,
it comes to interest
He
rates.
might not have the best couth in the world.
Yeah,
but-
but-
No, because
but he's a businessman and he.
But he's a
runs
good,
the-
I believe he
he runs
fights
the
for us
country.
and I
look at
agree.
this,
So
look at
with
this
that,
market.
This is our
Being-
biggest,
So
the
with
biggest
that,
business he
I
has.
think that's why the rates, to me, I mean, there's nothing on the horizon.
That's why I hope he stays in office, so over the next 4 years, I can get my credit where it needs to be.
I mean,
I'm gonna
right.
tell you,
We got a
hey, yeah,
house.
If he does, we got 4 more great years
Of
of
real
this,
estate, yeah.
You know, at least, you know.
Well, what Leonard and I want you to hear from us more than anything is, we're not gonna take you on any kind of ride. You're gonna know within a 24-hour period, you know, if we need to do any research on something.
Yeah.
And we do our due diligence around those things, because we are super sensitive to everybody's emotions and feelings, and, you know, we're real people, we're not made of stone. You know, so,
And they don't wanna say no,
oh,
nobody
my
wants to
word.
say no,
We
we
don't get
all
that-
wanna
I
say.
mean, it's your
like you guys.
business too.
Chugga, chugga,
right.
chugga, let's go.
hey, we're all commissioned only.
Yeah,
So either we're making it or we're not.
Yeah.
So when we take the time to work with somebody to try to get them somewhere, we're hoping they come back in 12 months, just like you guys would, that it would ultimately close out or whenever.
yeah.
And some people will never be ready. You know, that's another hard fact that we all have to deal with, which is some folks are just, they've just gotten too far, you know, and we can't. But at the same time.
And bad habits are bad habits.
We have been able to make so many good things happen, and, we are very kind with your customers. We answer our phones. I mean, we just the relationships are important to us, and we treat them like we would wanna be treated. And I don't know what y'all experience out there, with other lenders, but we just want you to know, it's like you're handing us your paycheck, and we're like, okay, let's get it to the end. And it's the same for us, you know, we're a mirrored image of each other, so the kinder and the more clarity we can provide around it.
And plus, we gotta see you every day, so it's not like we can just tell you something, it's like,
And dodge
we're
us
not
in the
gonna see
hall.
you. You know,
Yeah.
we have to see you every day, so if they tell you something, I mean, we have to.
We mean it, you know.
We have to own up to it.
And we've been around some yes people before that will say anything, and we all end up looking, but
Yeah.
Unprofessional, yeah.
When someone has a lower credit score and they're afraid to pull their credit, because they think that it's going to affect their credit score too much, what would you say?
how do I combat that? Like yesterday, had this happen yesterday. Hey, I really don't want, how's this gonna affect my credit? And I said, this is the one time we have to pull your credit. Meaning, here's what kills people, shopping for cars. If you go to a dealership.
One dealership.
And say, please help me with financing, they may hit 10 or 15 different people. hard hits on your credit.
That's hard.
It will
That's a
tank
hard
you
hit.
100 points.
Wow.
If you are inquiring on a credit card over and over because you're just trying to, you're moving money around, that'll kill you. Mortgage reports are this is the one time you have to pull your credit. So that's what I explain to people. I really can't help unless I've got that one piece. This is it. And this is the one that all of them matter from. So if they're shopping lenders, they can pull it within a 30-day period from one to the next and it not be a complete.
Right.
If
But
I have
how much
somebody.
does it
Yeah,
actually
Well,
Yeah.
see, I
affect
had
credit?
one lady last week who was already pre-approved, already told me exactly what her score was. And she said, hey, I want to go through you, blah, blah, blah. And she said, how much is going to hurt my score? I said, I don't know. It's probably not going to, I've heard it's not going to hurt at all. And I pulled it, it was exactly what she had before. So between, like you said, it was like a 2-week period. It was exactly the same score.
So,
But what does it actually affect it?
We don't know.
But don't you have to run it again, like,
Right before closing?
right before closing, yeah?
Now that last hit is what we call a soft pull. The initial one that we do, and credit reports are good for 120 days, so if we have to
Oh, okay.
update anything, we've gotta pull it again.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just, they just look into, it's not like it's not gonna show up.
Yeah, we won't know. Like if you've got somebody super marginal that's checked around a lot, it could be a bigger deal.
so what's the difference between hard and soft?
Well, the hard one is actually a hard inquiry. The soft pull, I don't guess they register, I don't know
I
how
don't
that.
think they don't register.
So they don't
I
register
think
the
they just
pool?
get with the credit report and they can just go in and just see if there's anything changing. And if it is, then of course they may get an alert back and it may have to be a hard hit, but
Right.
So that's what would happen with you. You guys do a soft pool.
On the end.
on the inside.
Is she saying right before
Yeah,
closing?
we're still gonna show up as an incline. But supposedly, again, because you have to mortgage wise, I've never seen them, when I've had to pull another one behind somebody, I've never seen it lower than what they had on the first
More
one.
than maybe 1 point.
Maybe 1 point or something. So it's not,
Right.
that may be 10, that may be a different story.
Right.
But doing
Yeah,
10,
one-
they're probably not gonna be approved anyway, just why.
Yeah.
If you go past 2, that means you're just, hopefully somebody's gonna give you something.
Does medical bills affect you a lot? I mean, like, I have, the majority of stuff on my credit is medical bills,
Mhm.
past medical bills.
I
Do
would
those-
leave those alone.
Really?
Don't touch
Here's
it.
another thing.
But if they're affecting your credit score.
I know, that's
You've
what-
already been hit with your credit score, that's the thing, it's already there,
Yeah,
so you've already been hit. Even if you pay it off, it's still there, but a zero balance, so you've already been hit with your score, so that's what Missy said.
But if
don't
you
touch
pay it off, it's not gonna increase.
It's
It'll
still
drop
there.
you about 100 points.
It'll drop you,
It will.
because you just
To
reactivated
pay 'em off?
it. Because that thing may have
Really?
been sitting there for 2 years, so you've gotten a hit 2 years ago.
Right.
And all of a sudden you decide to make a payment or pay it off, guess
It's
what?
renewing it, like
renewed.
showing it
You just
again?
now have a
But
brand
my
new
question,
collection.
like,
Oh my
for instance,
gosh,
here's
I did
another
not
thing.
know
My
that.
husband has like a $658 for a medical bill that was like from 2013. And it said just this past, February 9th, that it went through again and it's.
Oh, yeah, they're updating it.
Yeah, they're updating it, so that doesn't affect it? But he hasn't
If-
touched it, he hasn't called them, he doesn't, done nothing with it, but they're automatically renewing it anyways, so what's the
If
difference of paying
you,
it off?
depending on how quickly you're trying to do something, let's just say you need 12 to 24 months. You might wanna go ahead and take care of it.
Yeah, if you have
But
time.
let me tell you what happened to me. Had a USDA loan in process. The gal had qualified, and then that house fell through, and another one came through, and we had to update the credit report. Well, it dropped 100 points, because she had an $85 medical collection that missed her, that wasn't on my credit report, but it came in on the new one. There was nothing anybody could do. I mean, I was just waiting on time to pass.
Mhm.
So
So
you,
basically with this, because it just
So
recently
she couldn't
renewed,
show-
to go ahead and take care of it?
I'd probably do it now.
Yeah.
I mean, she
Yeah.
Rather
couldn't
than
go
coming
pay the
down.
$85 and show
Oh,
that
she
she's
did pay it.
paid it,
She did pay it.
but it didn't help her.
it dropped her 100 points for doing it. Because it actually went to the collection status. If you don't pay it on time, and it goes through and is turned over to collections, then it's a
So
negative.
she paid it and that kept her from getting the house?
It dropped her 100 points on
Oh,
her credit
my
score.
gosh.
So what's
So,
the best way?
If
to
she
get
didn't
collection?
pay it, would it wouldn't have been any different, right?
Because it popped up as a
You
collection.
just popped up, okay, it wasn't already sitting there.
Yeah, it was new. It was a new delinquency.
But it was
And they're
showing it was
talking about
delinquent
delinquent.
because of the
Now, if
time.
you're making your medical payments regularly and they haven't put it through collections,
What
right?
if it's?
That's
yeah.
different.
Yeah, but it
That's
ain't gonna be on your
collection.
credit if it ain't through collection.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, you
Correct.
don't.
What
I'm
you
talking
want?
about stuff that's on your
That's on-
credit.
The collection.
Yeah.
If it, we'd have to look at the whole thing and get some advice greater than us. Because all we know are we pull it and we
Just
pull
from
that
experience, what
wayfinder.
we've seen, you know.
Right,
I'm just
so,
gonna have you put
So let me ask you a
guys tell me
question.
what to do.
If, say, I get my credit score up to where it needs to be, and I come to you, and there's a medical bill pops up that lowers my credit score a little bit, but not past the 620 or whatever, would that still affect?
it depends on what the whole picture. So what we do is we pull the credit in, we run it through our initial underwriting, and then it tells us the response. So, yeah, if you don't want any new derogatory stuff, by all means,
Yeah.
And here's the hateful thing about medical collections. I've had Huntsville Hospital call me and say, we're getting ready to turn you over to a medical collection on a bill I never got.
Yeah, that's happened to
They're the
us.
worst.
Let me give you one worse. David was in a car accident, in 2018, in December of 2018. No, 2017, December of 2017, had his car totaled, wasn't his fault. Aggravated a hernia. He had a small hernia, made it worse because he got 7 herniated discs from this accident. So all the
God.
trauma, made the hernia get really big. So he had to have surgery to correct the hernia. We had insurance, paid the parts we were supposed to pay.
Right,
Thought
that you're
everything was
aware
taken
of.
care of.
Right?
And it's a long story, but we had Obamacare during that time. So
Right.
probably 6 months later, Obamacare, maybe 8 months later, Obamacare comes back, hey, you make too much money, we're kicking you out. They kicked us out of the insurance program.
Haven't touched it.
So then we are having our taxes done by our accountant, and our accountant comes back and says, you made too much money during the time he had the surgery, according to Obamacare. Now you gotta pay $30,000 back from the surgery.
Who's got
Oh
that
my
lying
gosh, are you
around?
serious?
No, I'm dog serious. That we have to pay $30-something thousand. We're fighting it. We're going through an advocacy and all this stuff. Anyway,
Good.
$30,000 for this particular surgery. Then, all of a sudden, we didn't even know anything about it. They garnish his wages at work for $3,000 something to Crestwood because they said that we had to pay them that much in cash.
Wow.
We didn't know anything about it.
It never came around again.
No.
It is,
Now, we've paid it off,
but still,
but still, yeah.
no notice. Yeah. The hospital collections billing, that's somebody, that's the twilight zone.
But it just is so frustrating. It's like,
Horrible.
we thought for sure we were getting ahead of everything, and then all that happened, our credit went right back down the toilet again. It's like,
Right.
That's
God,
what
you
I
got a
have-
better plan. That's all I got.
It's true.
My kids went to the hospital and they had